All right, welcome to another episode of Texas on My Mind. So excited to have with me one of my closest friends, somebody that I've known for a number of years, Mr. Tracy Swanson. Tracy hails originally from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have known each other for at least a decade now. I know we worked together in separate offices at my current company. He moved to Austin how many years ago? Like 6 or 7 years ago?
March of 2017.
March of 2017. So almost 7 years.
Yeah.
Coming up. Sounds good. And he's just been a really good friend of mine. He was in my wedding and a very big fan of Texas as well as the podcast. So I'm just very excited to have him on. So thanks for coming on, Tracy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Brantley, for having me. And I'll tell you what, from the moment you started this podcast, I came over here and checked out the set here in your lavish garage.
I wouldn't say lavish, but
do the folks know that it's here in your garage?
Oh, they know.
Okay.
I've mentioned it a few times, I believe.
Oh, okay. The true fans know.
Yes, true fans know.
Yeah, I mean, awesome setup. You had the bottle of Texas whiskey
There we go.
ready for us. It's going down smooth.
Good.
And I've been so pumped to come on this podcast from the moment you asked me.
Good.
So woke up this morning with Texas on my mind.
There you go. Good old Pat Green. I love it. Absolutely.
Is that where you came up with the name?
Yeah, it was just honestly, I was kind of knocking around some names, and I'll be honest, my wife is from Georgia, and I was thinking, how can I come up with a podcast that maybe I could start another podcast if eventually we move to Georgia. I hope not. I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh,
we're going to stay
alert.
in Texas, I think. But Georgia on my mind is just a very common phrase over there. And then Pat Green's Texas on my mind was just a fan favorite of mine, or a favorite song of mine. So I just thought it clicked.
It's a great jam.
There we go. But yeah, we have the cocktail of the episode. We got good old Texas blended whiskey, TX blended whiskey, sipping on that. It's always, every time we have a guest on, if they choose, we're going to have them choose a refreshment, and Tracy is a TX blended whiskey fan. So cheers, brother.
Cheers to you.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
For sure. So for those of you that can see us, I am rocking a Dak Prescott Cowboys jersey today. A little story about that. So the Cowboys pulled it off with a win against the Washington Commanders. I'm going to call them the Redskins.
Redskins.
They're still the Redskins. This past weekend to win the division for us.
NFC East
champs. Finally.
Yep.
Here we go. The Eagles, I was a little worried about it, but thank God the Giants actually pulled it out for us. Who would have thought?
The Eagles were a hot dumpster fire to end the season, and us Dallas fans love to see it.
Yeah, we love to see it indeed. But unfortunately, just being a lifelong Cowboys fan, we don't always fare super well in the playoffs as of lately. I wish they could bring back the old teams of the 90s, but I'm going to wear this Cowboys jersey every single opportunity that I get.
Yep.
Because we're rolling into the wild card game against the Packers on Sunday, and I don't know. Maybe it'll be a good luck charm. I'm going to keep it rolling until hopefully we're Super Bowl champs.
Yep. 7.5-point favorites.
There we go.
Opening spread over the Packers. We should take care of business, but as you mentioned, you never know as a Cowboys fan.
You never know. You never know. And speaking of the Cowboys, the old Cowboys Stadium actually is in the little town outside of Dallas that you grew up, I believe, Irving, Texas. Is that correct?
Irving, Texas is right. Yeah. AKA the Crooked Eye. Don't ask me why. We call it the Crooked Eye. But yes, I did. My family moved to Irving from Carrollton, Texas, actually, back in 1997. Although my dad had been working in Irving, and that's what settled us there as a family. So I am a native Texan, meaning I was born and raised in Texas. Both my parents are They met in Florida, actually.
Okay.
My mom was going to Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, Florida.
Yep.
Got her degree in
just north of Miami. Is
That's
that right?
right.
That's right.
That's right. Yep. Got her degree in theater. So perhaps that's where I get my theatrical talents, if you want to call them talents.
That's right. Tracy's a professional actor. He actually. Do you have an IMDb at this point? I mean, I feel like you should in some of the commercials you've been in.
I do have an IMDb. I am credited for one film. It's called The Process of Creative Deception. It was an independent film released back in 2002. Played at the Sundance Film Festival. I played a character named Johnny, and I had about a...
That's amazing.
I had a 5-minute role in that movie, and... it was a weird movie. If you ever find it, let me know. I've never been able to find the actual film. Can we get
that name again one more time for the fans out there to Google?
Johnny.
Johnny?
And it was, that was my character, and it was a film called The Process of Creative Deception.
Fantastic. We're going to have to check that out. I'm going to have to put some clips up on this for us.
Yeah.
Your 3 minutes of fame, maybe.
Yes. And I got my degree in journalism. I love being in front of the camera. I love talking, into the microphone. And so, like I said, I probably got that from my mom.
Sounds like it.
And my dad was a car salesman. So you blend the two together and
you got a natural born performer right here and salesperson. That's fantastic. So what was it like? So both your parents moved from Florida. They settle just outside of Dallas and Irving. What was it like growing up there? Give us the whole story behind what your childhood was like and what led you to here.
So parents met in Florida. My mom, with her theater degree, became a flight attendant because that was the cool hip thing to do back in the 70s. Flew for an airline called Braniff Airways, which is no longer in existence. They went bankrupt back in the 80s. But gets a job for Braniff. They say, we're going to base you in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
At Love Field. And my mom, being a Jersey girl who's in Florida, is probably thinking, what is in Dallas, Texas,
right.
besides, farms and cattle?
She probably got a lot of info from the show Dallas, probably at the time.
Absolutely.
It was just boots and big hats and big hair, right?
Yeah. So the show Dallas became popular in the 80s. So it was after they moved.
Okay, gotcha.
They moved to Dallas in 77. My dad, having met my mom a few months earlier, followed her to Dallas. Okay. And the way my mom tells the story is that she couldn't believe that he was following her. It was kind of creepy. They had just met 2 months, and he's like, I love you. I want to follow you to Texas.
He just knew it.
She's like, okay. And here they are, been married for 40 years.
Wow.
But anyway, they relocate to Dallas. My dad gets a job selling cars at Bankston Nissan in Irving, right off of 183. Okay. Irving is centrally located right in between Dallas and Fort Worth. It's where the DFW airport is, and a big metropolis. It has a lot of history. A big city. History being, Clyde, of Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, right.
Grew up in
originally in Irving. That's right.
Bonnie and Clyde actually got stopped and almost ambushed on Esther's Road off of 183.
Okay.
And the morning that JFK was shot in Dallas, Lee Harvey Oswald actually made the drive in from Irving that morning.
A lot of sinister history coming from Irving.
And not only do I love history,
a lot of criminals, I guess.
Yeah.
But at least famous criminals.
Absolutely. So grew up in Irving, like I said. Dad working at Bankston Nissan. Fun fact, he was selling cars and tells a story about having some of the SMU ponies and their coach in a car. And so my dad contributed to the pony excess.
Oh, no.
And the eventual death penalty of SMU athletics, which
that's insane.
Haunted them for decades.
Absolutely. If you're not familiar with the pony excess, there's a great ESPN 30 for 30 about it. You'll have to check out. But essentially, it was in the 80s, primarily in the 80s, right? SMU's football team was an unstoppable force. and it came out that they were, I think it was more, it was known, but it was just like kind of most of the fans, the boosters, just the NCAA pretty much turned a blind eye, but they were getting all these elaborate gifts to recruit the best talent. And cars was one of those things. I know there was a Trans A&M or Trans Am that went to, I think, Eric Dickerson. That was one of the famous cars that was thrown to one of those recruits. And I'm sure maybe there were some Nissans thrown at them.
Yes. And here we are 40 plus years later, and the NIL and the way that college football has evolved. Mm-hmm. I'm sure SMU wants to give that death penalty back.
I bet, yeah.
Because everybody's doing it now, and some are saying it's ruined college football. Being a Mizzou Tiger who has benefited, that university has benefited greatly from the NIL and all the money involved.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
There you go. I think, there's been a lot of evening of the playing field for schools like Mizzou and, some of these that have been kind of middle of the pack.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't understand how my Aggies are not benefiting tremendously from this, considering we have all these deep pockets.
Yep.
We can let Jimbo Fisher go with, $70 million, but we can't recruit some stud quarterbacks that won't get hurt. I don't know.
What's the word on the Aggies and the Qatar oil dealings?
Oh, God. You want to talk about that? We got to talk about that. So I will give a little bit of color on that. So Qatar. So when I went to school there, and I was there from 2007 to 2011, Qatar. And the only reason I knew this is because I took summer school online classes. Okay. So I always wanted to take at least one summer school class so I could stay in College Station. Didn't have to go back home for the whole summer. I could stay in the college town, pool all day, right after class. So I'm on there and I'm registering for my summer classes, and there's two options for the class that I'm taking. It was some bullshit, like, I don't know, some elective class or something.
Bowling?
And I don't know. It was something. It was like ag economics or something. I don't know. Or honestly, probably even worse than random as something else. But there was two options to select the course, and one was the main campus, Texas A&M College Station, and Texas A&M Qatar.
Oh,
and I'm not. I'm 19 years old. I have no idea what the hell Qatar is, or Qatar, which some people call it.
Yes, Qatar.
And so I started doing a little research on it myself, and I found out, obviously, Qatar is a country in the Middle East, and A&M has had an affiliation with them for like 20 years, 20 plus years. So we have a campus there. So actually I had a lot of buddies sending me those memes, right? There's Reveille with a hijab on.
Great.
There's some pretty funny memes that are going out, and it's saying obviously like, potentially nuclear secrets, nuclear weapon information could be accidentally given or leaked to Qatar, when in all essence, it's probably nonsense, because we've had this long-term relationship with them, 20 plus years, but it has been amazing for the memes, like I said.
Everyone's always picking on the Aggies.
That's kind of like our job, right? It's like we're that scapegoat, and the best Aggies laugh along with it, like me. I'll give you that.
100%.
Love it. So, grew up in Irving. Dad's works at a Nissan dealership. Where did you go to what was it like in middle school? Did you play sports?
Yes.
Obviously, you said you were in theater a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about leading up to Mizzou.
Yep. So, grew up, pretty standard lifestyle. Actually, the nicer part of Irving you would refer to as Las Colinas.
Ooh, Las Colinas, the old Byron Nelson.
Yeah, where they used to play the Byron Nelson.
Oh, yes.
And had a lot of great times going to that tournament.
Hell yeah.
Actually,
that was one of the most fun tournaments going to as a kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right next to Scottsdale and the loudest hole in golf they always used to say that the Byron Nelson was a tick below that in terms of the party.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and we helped throughout high school and college, and
You added to the loudness.
the pavilion. You didn't even go to watch golf.
Yeah.
Or at least a lot of the women in high heels didn't go to watch golf.
That's right.
I would always hear that they're going to meet a husband.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be
a lot of them probably went to SMU.
Yep. Full circle.
They were out there.
But anyway, yeah, went to middle school at a place called Travis Junior High, and then went to high school at MacArthur High School, just right on MacArthur Road there in Irving. There's 3 high schools in Irving. You've got Nimitz, Irving High School, and MacArthur High School, which is a little further north Irving. But related to Texas,
Sure.
in middle school, 7th grade, I think all of us Texans know, you take Texas history.
Oh, yeah.
And at Travis Middle School, our Texas history teacher in 7th grade was a guy by the name of Coach Reeves, Dan Reeves.
Dan Reeves.
And
All
Dan
right.
Reeves was your
Sounds like a coach.
stereotypical Texas middle school, high school football coach. He used to wear the short shorts, the tucked in shirt with this big old belly hanging over. And he had some old gray curly hair, and he talked real deep voice like this. And Coach Reeves, if you're out there, I just want to say thank you for igniting my passion for Texas history.
Let's go.
From the moment I took that Texas history class to now, I haven't stopped trying to learn about history in general, but mostly Texas history. There's such a rich history in this state. And 7th grade, you've got kids who don't give a darn. And there are still, I can't believe people who say, I can't stand history. What? History is just...
I don't know who those people are.
It's the irrelevant past. Yeah. But everything that's happening now is happening for a reason. And, our history speaks to that. History repeats itself. And so I've always been fascinated by that, fascinated seeing old pictures, whether it be old pictures of Congress Avenue here in Austin or the Alamo down in San Antonio. So 7th grade, you've got your students in the class who are bored and they're falling asleep. Well, Coach Reeves, he didn't put up with that. And so as he's telling the story I'll never forget of the long siege of the Alamo, he starts talking like this, and he says, by the 12th day, the Texans were dug in pretty good. Now, the Mexicans had been blasting their cannons and keeping them up all night. Davy Crockett tried to keep the morale high by playing his violin.
His fiddle.
And his fiddle.
That's right.
Yep. And so on the 12th day of the siege, and there's a kid in the class in the back that's, you could tell, has fallen asleep, and he's got his head on his hand like that. And Coach Reeves is telling the story as he's creeping up closer to this kid's desk, and he says, on the 12th day, the Texans look up over the walls of the Alamo, and they can smell the tequila on the Mexicans' breath, and they can see their bloodshot eyes. And all of a sudden, boom, and the cannons go off, and the kid that's sleeping, wakes up all of a sudden, he bangs his desk. Oh, what happened? And the Mexicans start charging. And, next thing you know, we're talking about the fall of the Alamo, March 6th, 1836.
There you go.
I was just fascinated from that point on, whether we're talking about the Yellow Rose of Texas or the Comanche Indians roaming the plains west of Interstate 35 and Fort Worth being an actual fort. That was our last line of defense from those Comanche Indians. Quanah Parker and his affiliation into the white man's world, all the way up to, more recent day and the JFK assassination. Everything that has happened.
The museum where, what was it? What's it called? The 12th?
Dealey Plaza.
Well, what's it called? It's the something floor museum, right? 12 floor museums.
Yeah, the
totally forgot.
The 6th floor.
6th floor museum. That's right. In downtown Dallas, where you actually got to see where Lee Harvey Oswald put his crow's nest where he shot him from, and they still have the X in the middle of the street where they actually shot him. So it sounds like Coach Reeves was a hoot, and I don't know why I have this this image in my head that I got like Dazed and Confused vibes, like, you know, that football coach from Dazed and Confused with the short shorts, and he's got the same thing. But
get you one of
these.
these.
He's got a passion for history, and that's awesome. That's kind of moved you into having this passion for history, Texas history especially.
Yes. So tangent here, but we talk about the X in the road with JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald. Was Lee Harvey Oswald a patsy, as he claimed? Was he framed by the CIA or the Russians or the Cubans or the mafia? What are your thoughts on that? Was he acting alone?
You know, that's a good question, because I know that there's been some documents that have been now, like, what are they? They've been not leaked, but they've been
released,
declassified, right? And basically, again, I haven't poured through the data, but I have listened to other podcasts. I've listened to Tucker Carlson has his opinions about it. But it sounds like the CIA had a heavy hand. Maybe they didn't pull the trigger. Maybe they didn't make Lee Harvey Oswald an absolute patsy. But it is pretty clear, I think, from some of the declassified documents that they were aware of an assassination attempt at the very least, right? So then you got the grassy knoll. I mean,
back and to the left.
There you go. Isn't it the original the word conspiracy theorist came from the JFK assassination? Or actually, I think it's become before that, but that's when it became popular, right? Like just the words conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists. But
yes.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I've gone back and forth.
Okay.
I've watched a lot of the Zapruder film. The only guy who had a camera rolling from the grassy knoll, perfect vantage point that day. They have dissected that film over and over, and I've gone back and forth. I've gone with Lee Harvey Oswald was the only one. He was, a defected Russian sympathist who hated the U.S. and wanted to kind of make
essentially communist, right?
Yeah, he was a communist, and we were going through a lot with the Cubans and the Russians and the Cold War at the time.
That's right.
So there's part of me that thinks he did act alone. There's part of me that believes that there was a plume of smoke from the wooden fence behind the grassy knoll.
Right.
Where
was that in the film?
No, there's
Can't
no
really
proof. Witnesses have claimed, hey, I might have heard a shot from up there, but also, might have ricocheted, or there was a shot from over there. Some have claimed that they saw some rifle smoke come up from over there and saw a guy dressed in a Dallas PD uniform fleeing the scene from that area.
Right.
Unfortunately, Lee Harvey Oswald fled to the Bishop Arts District now and killed a Dallas police officer by the name of J.D. Tippit. And so he was the other man to die that day. But who knows? Will we ever know? Unfortunately, most of the men and women that were alive on that day and witnesses are coming to their last years.
That's right.
And
I'm sure there's somebody that knows for sure, but and also what really doesn't sit well with me is like how obviously Lee Harvey Oswald was shot, when after being put into custody by Jack Ruby.
Yep.
And then I believe Jack Ruby was also assassinated, right?
Well,
or he was
Ruby
shot.
died in jail. I think of natural causes.
Okay.
So did Epstein.
But big quotations
around
died of natural causes.
So Jack Ruby was the owner of a nightclub in downtown Dallas.
That's right.
It was kind of it was a seedy place that a lot of the Dallas PD used to go to. And he knew a lot of the guys on the force, and he had access to the jail and the hospital that day. And so for him the next day to blast Lee Harvey Oswald in the gut and kill him, thus killing our number one witness.
Literally. The one that would know if there really, truly was a conspiracy.
Yeah, and who knows why that happened. Maybe Ruby was hired to shut him up. Maybe
true.
Ruby was just such a JFK lover and a lover of his country, as he claimed, that it was a crime of passion.
Could be.
But Heck, we could spend this entire pod. You could create a whole new podcast.
That's right. We really could.
And I'm sure there's plenty of them.
We should do that sometimes. We'll have you back and we're going to pour into all the JFK conspiracy theories as two original natives from Dallas and get to the bottom of this, because I don't feel, it just doesn't sit well with me that that's a big black smudge on Dallas's map, right?
Yep.
That we have an incredible, one of our best, I feel like he's always up there with one of our top presidents that's ever served. And obviously, you got his nephew running now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he has probably his own opinions as well, and everything's kind of bubbling up. So we'll have to get to that. But I feel like we should talk about the Texas Revolution.
Please. Yeah.
I had no idea how learned you were with all the facts and the especially the battles of the Texas Revolution. So tell me, so how did it start? I feel like, yes, to all of you out there that, yes, we have 2 years of Texas history. We took it in like 4th grade, but let's be honest, 10 years old, you're not really.
Do you really care?
You remember the Alamo, and that's it.
Remember the Alamo.
There you go. Not to be cliche, but 7th grade, I had an equally incredible Texas history teacher who really got into it as well. Went through, I believe her name was Miss Fedorko, if I remember correctly, and Park Hill Junior High in
Shout
North
out
Dallas.
Miss
Fedorko. And we also did a field trip to the state capitol here and the Alamo. But
sweet!
It was just incredible to learn. Just it's so different compared to like the United States Revolutionary War. It really is still, I feel like, within our DNA as citizens of Texas, even if you weren't born here. But we have monuments all over. The name Houston, Austin, obviously come from Stephen F. Austin, our original president. Sam Houston, the original general and eventual president of the Republic of Texas.
Yep.
How did it get started though? Like, we were part of Mexico, and then what happened? Like, how did it kind of bubble up?
Well, you mentioned Stephen F. Austin. He was a businessman who saw an opportunity in the state of Texas to settle on the great land that we have here. Right. And I believe at the time, the Mexican government was selling land grants.
That's right.
And he was kind of the middleman between the Mexican government and the brave souls that wanted to move to Texas and start a life here. So at some point, so many people moved here and the population grew so much. It was similar to the American Revolution, where taxation without representation, the Mexican government wanted their share.
Right.
The people of Texas didn't exactly like the way that Mexico City was running things from 1,000 miles away. And that bubbled up into what eventually became, a revolutionary war.
That's right. And if I remember correctly, so if we like set the scene, this is like the 1830s, right? So, the United States has been a country for, roughly 60 years at this point, a little bit less than 60 years. So still a very young nation. And the landscape of the United States, we had our original 13 colonies. Florida, I believe, was still a part of Spain. And then we had kind of moved into the Appalachians, right? Mexico had just gone through, if I remember correctly, their own war of independence from Spain. And they still owned pretty much all of New Mexico over to California. So Texas was kind of like the deep West, right, for most people. And
we had the Louisiana Purchase.
We had the Louisiana Purchase. That's right. We had the Louisiana Purchase. And then everybody, as a country gets bigger and bigger and more populous, people are always looking to find their stake, put their stake in the world, find land. Thousands of acres at that time was needed because agriculture was king. So I feel like, I think to your point, Mexican government opened it up to land grants. You could pay them. You could stick, the the Texas landscape north of Rio Grande was not populated as much, primarily by Native Americans and Mexicans that have went, you know, north of the river. And so there was lots of room for, let's call them Anglo-Americans to come and settle, right?
If you were brave enough to travel out,
Yeah.
settle on that land, and you're fighting off Native American Indians who were here first.
Native Americans, the wildlife, you know, it was, you know, we have the massive plains, right? So, you know, the Native Americans didn't want to give that up because that's their, you know, the buffalo, their, you know, major food sources. And so when some white guy and his family pulls up, he says, I own this land now. I don't think that's going to settle very well with them. But so, yes, a lot of brave souls to come out this way. And I believe also slavery was considered illegal in Mexico.
That's right.
And so I think that kind of started a little bit of a tinder or a little bit of a tinder fire because Americans, obviously, we had our slaves. We wanted to bring them over, especially when we're settling in a piece of the country where, yes, agriculture is going to be incredibly lucrative to their lifestyle. You need labor, and at the time, it was African slaves and Mexicans. The Mexican government, which was an authoritative government, if I remember correctly, were not for that.
Yes,
They didn't like that. That was illegal to them.
General Antonio de Santa Anna.
Antonio de Lopez de Santa Anna.
That's right.
That's right. Don't get me started on Santa Anna.
Let's get you started on Santa Anna.
Okay,
what kind of beef you got with him?
Okay, so this is actually hilarious. First of all, I am absolutely fascinated by Santa Anna.
He was an interesting cat.
I did a paper on him
in
the 7th grade, and so that's why I know a little bit about him. So this is I can't even make this up. So obviously, like I said before, Mexico gains their independence from Spain with a lot of help. You know, Antonio de Lopez de Santa Anna was one of the essential elites. You know, I think he was Spanish born, came to Mexico. It's obviously disconnected by a huge ocean. And when he got in here, he was still part of the Spanish elites, but eventually helped with the uprising of Mexico against Spain. So that's how he kind of came to power, I think, is he was part of that elite group, Spanish born, and was able to help, you know, the country itself gain its independence.
Okay.
But then listen to how big of a prick this guy gets, okay? So he kind of like dubs himself the emperor, or basically a king in Mexico, enters a authoritative government into Mexico.
Did he have a hard-on for Napoleon?
I think he's did. You know, I think the Napoleonic Wars actually was a big part of allowing him to rise to power and allowing Mexico to gain their independence because Spain was so, I guess, they were so focused on protecting themselves against France. And so that allowed him to do that. But dictator he basically made himself dictator.
Okay.
Right. And so during the Texas Revolutionary War, not only is he a dick to us, right? Us Texans, you have the Battle of Goliad, a very famous battle, which again, I know Remember the Alamo is one of the biggest war cries most people remember, but they also
Remember Goliad.
Remember Goliad. And what happened was there was Colonel Fannin, or General Fannin, if I remember. Maybe it's Colonel Fannin. He marched to Goliad to head off the Mexicans who came from Texas or came from Mexico up to. Not only was he a dick to us, but he was a dick to his own soldiers. He made all of his soldiers march through the winter up to Texas, and that's why we were a little unprepared when they came up to get us, because we didn't think that they were going to march through the desert through that rough winter. And I feel like 50% of these soldiers didn't even have shoes. And so they're marching through the desert. Like, I think there was thousands that even maybe died just from the elements.
Can you imagine, this is January, February time frame of 1835 or whatever. And
that's right.
Right now, there are temps in the 20s.
Oh my God,
I think we're expecting temps to drop down into the teens and 20s.
And if you go south of Rio Grande, like into some of the deserts, it is desolate. It is not. I mean, that's why like individuals that immigrants that that come over, they have to go through a lot just to get here. But anyways, they get to Goliad. Unfortunately, the Texans they're defeated, and instead of traditional warfare, you have prisoners of war. Santa Anna decides, no, we're going to murder all of them, essentially assassinate them all as rebels. So he kills every single Texan that was a prisoner from the Texas Army in Goliad. Then he goes to the Alamo, right? Unfortunately, the same thing happens. They fight to the last man. We win the war, luckily. So he's just an absolute asshole. He has no remorse for human life. But this is hilarious. So after, obviously, we win the Texas War.
We caught him taking a siesta.
We caught him taking a siesta. We captured him. We made him sign over, that in the Battle of San Jacinto, we let him, we take him as a prisoner and we force him to sign over our independence. The Mexican government, however, continues to not recognize us, right? And so that leads to points A and B. So Santa Anna, after the war, after Texas Revolutionary War, decides, I don't know why he just wanted to fight everyone, but he gets into another war or another battle. I think it might have been with France, and his leg is actually absolutely shot. Like something happens, maybe it's hit with gunfire, cannon fire. I forget what happened, but his leg has to be amputated in the war. Tracy, this man has a funeral for his amputated leg in Mexico City.
Okay.
I shit you not. So he has so he makes a little coffin that he puts his leg in. They do this entire funeral procession. All the citizens are required to go. It's a dictatorship. People are like, what the hell is going on? We're literally having a funeral procession for this man's leg, and the man is still alive, right? So that's just goes to show how big of a narcissist asshole this Santa Anna was. However, something ironic happens. So I mentioned earlier the Mexican government did not recognize Texas, right, as independent. So when we are annexed by the United States by President James Polk in 1945, Mexico immediately goes to war with us. Now, I think in history, there's a little bit about, I think we may have been wanting to get California, so we may have like egged on the war. Like I think we brought U.S. troops to like the border, disputed border.
Right.
Mexico got in the skirmish with us, Mexican soldiers. And then now James Polk went to Congress and was like, they've shot U.S. soldiers on U.S. soil. We're going to Mexico. But the funny thing is, in one of the battles, so we took it to them, right? U.S. wound up winning. But one of the battles, they surprised, again, not only in San Jacinto, but it was a regiment from Illinois. They surprised the Mexican army in Santa Anna. He wasn't ready for us to come in. And so they had to hightail it out of there. But he left his wooden leg.
Oh.
And that wooden leg was taken by a regiment from Illinois. They wound up playing baseball with it that day. And that wooden leg, still to today, is in the Illinois Military Museum. And I can't remember what part of Illinois, but it is still there to today.
Very cool.
There you go.
I wonder how it stood up as a baseball bat, whether they were able to make good connection with that.
This 1840s prosthetic leg that probably had like jewels and shit on it, knowing Santa Anna. But I just thought that was hilarious. I wrote this whole paper on it, how the irony of this man gave a funeral for his leg, and then now he's still, into this day, kind of mocked in an Illinois military museum.
Awesome. Amazing.
Good story.
Yeah.
Good story. True story. Yeah.
I can't. I need to check it out. I want to see the leg now.
Oh, we're going to look it up.
I didn't know the story about the leg.
Yeah.
So Very cool.
They
Cheers
did
to Santa Anna's
They did a
leg.
King of the Hill episode on it too.
Hey, man.
It's pretty good.
You got Santa Anna's leg there, man?
There you go. But anyways, yeah. So thank God, Texas. Ooh, I got some good facts for you.
Keep them coming.
So what do you think would happen? So if we weren't annexed by the United States and we were our own country still to this day, we're still the Republic of Texas.
Yep.
How do you think life would be different, and how do you think things would be in our society right now?
Well, we would have gained our independence, so we wouldn't all be speaking Spanish.
We wouldn't all be speaking Spanish, right?
Now, had we not won that Battle of San Jacinto, we might be.
Yeah.
I think as Texans, we like to confidently say, hey, we could secede. We'd be just fine. We've got the 8th largest GDP in the world.
That's right.
We make more money than Canada, Mexico,
That's right.
Multiple countries in Europe combined.
It's funny you say that because I have in my little hidden drawer here. I have some facts about Texas right now.
Wow.
We can.
You've waited until this moment
In
to
this
bust those
very
out.
moment. In this very moment. So if Texas was still a republic, right? Like where will we stack up against the world? Now, let's be honest. We've benefited a ton from being in the U.S.
We're
as
not
one
the
of
8th
50
largest
states.
GDP if we're not part of
That's
the
true.
U.S.
But let's just pretend that we were able to accomplish everything that we've accomplished up until this point without the help of being one of the 50 states, right? So we are home. Texas is home to 29 million people.
Okay.
That is incredible. So that would actually make us the 49th most populous country in the world. We'd be right ahead of Nepal and right behind Yemen. So 49th.
Interesting.
There's 250 something countries in the world. So we're in the top, 6, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Top 5th, top 6. Our GDP is $1.7 trillion. So we're around the 8th to 9th largest economy, ahead of countries like South Korea, Canada, and even Russia.
That's surprising.
Isn't that surprising?
Well,
Texas as a state, our economy is larger than Russia and Canada. That is
surprising.
That was surprising to me.
But so much oil here.
I know, right?
And
Energy is king.
we benefit from that.
Big time. Absolutely. Speaking of oil, we are the 4th largest oil producer in the world, stacking up against countries. So we would be the 4th largest oil producer in the world. We make we basically drill and process 4.8 million barrels a day.
Dang.
So we would only be behind the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Russia in terms of oil production.
That's why I'm surprised about Russia's lack of GDP because
Right.
of their oil manufacturing.
It's oil, fertilizer, and vodka, I guess.
Yeah.
Stoli.
That's right. Yeah, but something about
crazy.
being a communist country and
Yeah, no, I hear you. Couple more things here, just because I wrote them down. We're 268,000 square miles, and we are about compared in size to Ukraine, which is about 233,000 square miles, which makes us the 40th largest country in the world in terms of square mileage. So we're right behind Myanmar and right in front of Zambia in terms of square mileage. Myanmar or Burma. Used to be Burma. Now it's Myanmar.
Cool.
And then last but not least, our soldiers, our military. I believe Texas has the largest amount of military natives or native Texans in the military. We have 164,000 soldiers that hail from Texas, which would make us equal to a fighting force of around Israel, which has 169,000 soldiers.
Okay. A lot of
Pretty crazy.
Texans are proud to be Americans.
Absolutely.
The Texan pride stems into American pride.
It's kind of like a second patriotism.
Yes.
Right? Like I think if you're a Texas patriot, right? You and me, we love Texas. People always, I always get shit at work because we're like, you love Texas so much. Like Texans just love Texas.
You made a podcast.
You guys are,
Texas.
I made a podcast about it, right? But yeah, I mean, we're also incredibly patriotic for the United States.
Yeah.
Right? We just love being a part of something, I think. We're proud. We have a lot of pride, especially in the military, especially in our culture, you know, in our people, right? And so I think we would be a badass country.
Yeah, we would. And we've got the best football down here.
I know.
We already know that without a question.
I mean, it starts in, I started playing football in 4th grade.
Yep.
And that was just like in the league. Probably at 3 years old, I'm pushing a football through the front door, right?
Will you allow your kids? I've got a baby boy on the way. As a matter of
12 days away.
Yeah, he's doing 12 days. So I don't even have my phone on me. Heck, my wife, Madison, could have gone into labor in the last hour.
I think we'd both be getting blown up.
Yeah, the garage would be getting knocked on. So
most definitely.
My question is, nowadays with CTE and more of the dangers of football, would you allow your kids to play, knowing the dangers of what we know now?
You know, that is and I'm 100% absolutely. I'm going to let my kids play sports,
yes.
you know.
Well, and not just sports, but contact football specifically.
I know football. And I understand that the risks behind it. And I think my parents understood the risks behind it when I played football.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I think luckily that I know of, I think I only got one concussion. There might have been 2 or 3 sprinkled in there. I played defense, so I hit people.
That's right.
I didn't get hit. So I think that helped. But yeah, I would say like, as long as you are allowing your kid and you have the care to know when this needs to stop, right? I think there's way more positives than negatives, right? Like the absolute camaraderie, the ability to, just push yourself to succeed. The best shape I ever was in my entire life was when I was a junior, pushing to be, in off season, going into senior year football season.
2-a-days.
Absolutely.
In the gym.
There's so much more positives. But yes, I mean, as long as you're not that, Tim McGraw from Friday Night Lights who's pushing their kid to kill himself.
Yeah.
And you're not Reggie Ray from, Not Another Teen Movie. He doesn't know when to stop when he's got too many concussions.
Can he play?
Fantastic movie. I think there's the positives absolutely outweigh the negatives, and obviously they take it so much more serious now in the medical world, right? So that's just my 2 cents.
Yep.
How do you feel about it? You're the one that's having the boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a baby girl.
Absolutely. As long as my boy isn't a little pipsqueak like I was, who, I stopped playing football after sophomore year because I was behind some guys who went and played D1, and I just knew I wasn't going to see much playing time. And
totally get it.
I moved into tennis.
Dude, I love tennis.
Tennis is great, absolutely. But yes, I will absolutely allow my boy to play whatever sports he wants to play.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a golf club in his hand pretty early.
Yeah, I figured you would.
Yeah.
You're out there every weekend. I mean, you gotta have that carry on.
Yes. I think, we talk about football being a sport where you learn a lot of lessons from. I think golf is one of those ones right there too. One of the most humbling games.
Oh, definitely.
In the world.
Absolutely.
But yes, absolutely. We'll cross that bridge as we get to it. Yeah. But I think that we're now more mindful of the injuries that can occur. And,
there's just a lot more.
Let the boys be boys.
Right. There's just a lot more medical data and obviously examples of negative and, impacts out there. But yes, Callie and I are very excited for you and Madison to have your baby boy, Drew, coming up.
So pumped.
Can't
Drew,
wait. It's the best thing in the world.
Anthony Swanson, maybe you'll watch this one day.
He will.
Hopefully be proud of your old man.
This will probably come out on the day he's born. I'll make sure of it. How about that?
Dad, I started to
You
watch
can
your
watch it.
podcast. And
You can watch it
lost
with
interest.
him in that, and ultimately what will be probably a very uncomfortable hotel cot that he'll be sleeping on.
Yeah, we're pumped. The anticipation is kind of killing me.
Kind of get to a point of let's get.
Let me
it over
tell you,
with
this
already.
9 months, it's been really rough for me. No, it has been for all of you women who go through pregnancy and labor. More power to you. You women are amazing. It is. I give you nothing but props because it is not easy, and women are tougher than men.
There you go. Always a people pleaser. Well, it sounds like you've had your hands full with some other projects while you've been waiting for your boy to be born. It sounds like I know it wasn't you, but you've invested in a bar on East 6th Street. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, a bar called Marlow, and a lot of Austinites and Texans know of 6th Street as Dirty Sixth.
Oh, yeah.
We're changing that moniker, and it is Historic Sixth. I know we've been focusing a lot on
All about
history. Yeah, but that is a very historic
It truly is.
part of Austin,
Truly
and 6th Street was the business district of early Austin. There were and still are a ton of businesses up and down that corridor. Congress Avenue is known as the Main Street of Texas, but 6th Street has always been our business corridor. And so, yes, I did. A good buddy of mine, Mike de Bonville, and another buddy, Joe Schumacher, both fraternity brothers of mine at Mizzou, were in the bar industry from college
No way.
on. And so they would always say, hey, we want to open a bar. And it was kind of, okay, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Until 15, I guess 20 years after college, they finally did it. And let me tell you, they did it right with Marlow. It is a really, really nice, classy. They're putting it on as they're calling it your living room.
Yeah.
It is comfortable. It's cool. The vibes are amazing in there. They imported the tile on the bar from northern Italy.
Ooh.
It delayed the launch of the bar by several weeks, so I know that a lot of investors weren't
fancy
happy
tiles
about
in
that.
there. Let's go.
It is class from
All
the
the
moment
way.
you walk in. The service is amazing. One thing I will say about Austin, unfortunately, the service industry, there's a lot of bad servers out there.
Yeah, it's
And
kind of started to go downhill.
A lot of entitled servers.
Sure.
And waiters, waitresses, bartenders, whatever that may be. And there's a lot of good ones out there too, but Marlow has focused on service,
Yes.
providing the best service, making some great drinks. It's a really comfortable, cool, good vibes setting. And so
Right.
I would totally encourage, I'll put my plug in there.
Yeah, we got
Get
it.
to Marlow. It's a great spot before or after the Comedy Mothership. It's a couple blocks down, or before or after dinner or drinks, anywhere around downtown. It's a fantastic spot. Tell them T. Swanee sent you.
There you go.
You might just get a discount.
You know, I've been waiting for. So I have a special place in my heart for Historic Six. I still got to call it Dirty
Thanks.
Six.
Oh, no,
Dirty Six is.
let's edit that part out.
We'll call it Historic Six. But I got a special place in my heart for it because that's what brought me to Austin. When I was in college, I was at A&M. I had 3 to 4 of my best friends that went to school at the University of Texas. And every time that I would come visit them, and even hell, on a random summer weekend,
Why not?
we would go to Dirty Six. We'd go to Historic
Maggie Mays.
Six. Maggie Mays, The Blind Pig, Shakespeare's, Cheers. Get yourself a Flamin' Dr. Pepper. And then, the bar scene just started to change, right? Rainy Street came on the scene.
West 6.
West 6 started. It was already kind of getting there, right? Like more of the yuppie crowd, right? More kind of young professionals. And then they just kind of took it to new heights with like the Bufords and the big, giant, courtyard style bars. But even when I was living over on Rainy Street as a bachelor. What was that? Like,
Oh, I remember that.
Great
spot.
4 to 6 years ago. I started gravitating back towards Six, like the Barbarellas, the Swan dives.
Oh yeah,
the fantastic. So I'm just really, and then unfortunately the pandemic hits, and a lot of those old, dive bars that you learned to love and kind of grew up with, like the Buffalo Billiards, and I heard, I know Maggie May's closed down. Like they all started kind of going out, and then with just Rainy Street, just not what it used to be, right? It just, I understand the reasons behind it. If I have a couple lots and somebody offers me a couple, $10+ million for them, I'm going to sell out too. But now it's just going to be all high rises with retail on the bottom and, apartments on top. And it's just not the same feel. I think people are going to naturally gravitate back towards historic Six. And you have an incredible bar like Marlow that focuses on the right things, service. It's a cozy feel, but also you can throw a party and have a really good time with your friends. I think you guys are going to be really successful, and I'm excited I still haven't been there yet, but I need to swing by sometime soon.
Yep, you got to check it out. And you're right. Everything is kind of, with Rainy Street becoming Rainy Street, it's not the same anymore. Everything has kind of gone to the East 6th side of town.
That's right.
And the East side,
that way.
Although Stream Realty Partners, a real estate group out of Dallas, purchased a bunch of blocks right there on historic 6th. And this was a building that they purchased. And so they're planning on changing that area, widening the streets, kind of making it that South Congress vibe, coffee shops, cool things to do during the day around that area. And so Marlow is in at the ground floor, and I think will be a mainstay in that area for a long time to come. I'm excited about it.
Fantastic, man. Well, I can't wait to swing by Marlow on Historic 6. If you guys are listening, if you are in the Austin area, or if you are swinging through, which, let's be honest, every single person probably swings through at least once in the summer, stop by Marlow's, have yourself a cocktail, and enjoy yourself.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Tracy, thanks so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It was great talking Texas history, learning more about yourself, learning more about the projects you're going on. Good luck to you in Madison, the birth of your baby boy. And thanks for putting Texas on my mind with me, brother.
Thank you so much, Brantley. It's been a pleasure. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, brother. Thanks so much.
Yep.